Hey, before the part where I usually throw a bunch of rhetorical questions at you, I just want to say hello to all of you out there listening, and to remind you that Station J is still a little infant podcast waiting to grow. If you're listening in and thinking, now I have new or more defined opinions on things, then consider helping spread the word. Thank you. Music. You're hard-pressed to go a day without hearing any. It's a ubiquitous part of everyday life, and everyone seems to have their own opinions. Today on the podcast, we're doing something a little different, because we tend to look at more abstract concepts to discuss. So I went into these interviews with three lovely musicians to talk not just about what music is, but about what it is music provides for us. I'm Jack Kroll, and this is Station J.
My name is Curtis Ambe. Musically or stage name, I go by solo artist. I've always been into music. My family is very musical. Like they don't, not as far as like creating, but there's always music playing in my house, like always. So from a young age, I've always heard music around, and it's just been a part of me since I want to say like elementary. I started writing music. I always wrote short stories and poems, and then in elementary, I branched into writing music, and I just fell in love with that. And
Do you still write short stories or poems?
no, I haven't in a while, in a long time, because I just write lyrics now, and those are like.
Can you argue that writing music is its own form of poetry?
Yes, hell yes.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people talk, especially about rap. A lot of people talk down about rap, but it's such a high form of art when you like break it down, because it's not just making words rhyme, it's making them make sense also while they're rhyming and telling a story, and so much so it is its own form of poetry, its own form of short storytelling. In a 5-minute span you can tell a lifetime story. So
Why do you think people talk down about rap?
it's the character of rap itself. People hear rap and they think cussing and guns and partying, and they just think people hear rap and think gangster rap. But rap is so much more than that. It's not always just the gangsta aspect. There's a lot of rap music that is also dance worthy. You can dance to, you can chill to, you can smoke to, whatever. There's a lot of different aspects about it. But I think when people hear rap, they immediately go to old school gangster rap, Ice Cube, F the Police, NWA, all that. So that's what's been like burned into their brain.
That's sort of like the image that society has said this is what rap is.
Exactly.
Instead of rap being like, rap will tell you what rap is.
Right.
Let us
Like
educate
it's its own
you.
form of its own thing.
When did you start performing?
I've been performing forever.
Life is a performance.
I used to do plays when I was younger. I used to do little talent shows for my family. Like I'd sit at home and like come up with a routine with my brother or something, and
That's
like,
awesome.
Yeah,
You put a set together.
Right. So even like short stick fights or whatever, and I'd show that to people. So I've been performing forever. Musically, I started performing, I'm gonna say about 5-6 years ago. That's when I got comfortable enough with my music to actually to not only share it, but like share it in person. So.
How long do you think you spent working yourself up to be able to perform music?
I didn't think about performing, but once I did think about it, it didn't take that long to be like, okay, no, I can do this.
Okay.
Yeah. It was more about because I used to write music and just like keep it to myself. And then when I started sharing that, then I think not too long after that, I was like, okay, yeah, no, people seem to enjoy this. I'm comfortable enough to actually do this with all eyes on me kind of thing. So.
Who are your influences?
Musically?
Yeah.
My favorite artist is Eminem, which the way he uses words, it's kind of a cheat almost. Like there's nothing he can do with words. He makes words rhyme that aren't supposed to rhyme, and just listening to him sometimes just like blows my mind. Just the way he comes up with things and puts things together. I really like words. That's been my biggest thing growing up, especially with like the writing. I just love constructing words and putting them together. Just dudes, the most amazing acrobatics with words, things that you would never.
Do you have musical influences outside of rap?
Yes, I listen to everything. I grew up listening to country and gospel, believe it or not. My mom was a big country gospel listener. Yeah, so my musical influences are all across the board.
Yeah.
I listen to everything. I'll listen to sad music just cause, even when I'm in like the greatest mood.
Does sad music provide anything for you?
Yeah, it does. It's a weird thing. I love sad sounding music like Kings of Leon, Adele, sad, stuff like that. For some reason, it's just my favorite kind of music. Even though like I'm probably one of the happiest people I know. I'm always like smiling and laughing and like I'm always in a good mood. But my brothers will be like, dude, are you depressed? You've been listening to Kings of Leon for like an entire day, and I'm like, no, I'm just soaking it in, just enjoying it. I feel like sorrow tells the best stories.
Really? Why do you think that is? That's fascinating.
It's just a deep emotion, It's if you can tell a sorrowful story well, or you can get that emotion across. I feel like most people relate to that the most, or it just hits you that much harder.
What do you think about comedic musicians?
I don't think there's many. There's like Lil Dicky. Off the top of my head is one I can think about. If it works, it works. And like 2 Chainz, for one, is a funny rapper to me. He says some of the funniest things in music. I never really think about comedy in music, but I guess there is.
I feel like more likely than not, people find comedy in music and things like musicals.
Okay, yeah.
Rather than mainstream music,
okay,
which
yeah,
I think is easier for people to wrap their head around. Oh, a funny musical.
Right.
Why do people listen to music?
Simply put, for me, the music is magic. It's literally take you like anywhere, It can make your mood, it can change your mood. It's just something to do to like kill the silence, I will say this, I don't trust people who don't listen to music. Like, in my lifetime, I've met like 1 or 2 people who said, oh, I don't like music, and judging books by their cover, I was like, yeah, we can't be friends.
They
like,
turned out to be serial killers.
Yeah, probably. I actually did not hang out with those people after, I'm not even gonna lie to you. It's just like a universal truth.
Every culture
Yeah.
has had their own form of music.
Amen, yeah. It works, so.
Could you tell me of a time or times where music has taken you someplace?
Yeah, so even like just listening to somebody else's sorrow kind of like puts me in that, not in that mood, but I can completely understand where they're coming from. I can delve into it and almost kind of feel that same pain that they're feeling, But then also on the flip side of that, there's been times where I'm not in the best mood at all. I just want to listen to music. Leave me alone. Let me put on something happy, put on something jammy. Come on, Eileen, and just like dance myself out, all the time actually. Music, even writing. I forget where I'm at sometimes when I get into a good, rhythm of writing. Literally takes me places all the time, mentally.
Have you ever heard someone say that any type of music sounds the same? Like, has anyone ever told you like, oh, I don't listen to classic rock because it all sounds the same. I don't listen to country because it all sounds the same.
Well, that's called a genre.
Yeah.
The music itself doesn't sound the same. It may have the same characteristics, but no song is the same. Even remixes, it definitely sounds the same, but you can't say, oh, I don't listen to this because it sounds like everything else in its genre, because, that's what a genre is.
Are there people you've met who are like that?
Yeah, I've met a few, and it's mostly rap. I've heard more than anything. Oh, I don't listen to rap more than anything, and a lot of people who rap actually don't listen to country. So
it's like that's the spectrum. On the
like,
one end you've got the country, and on the other end you have rap.
Yeah, for the most part, I've just a few people. Honestly, not a lot.
Do you think people who perform country hear, oh, I don't listen to country?
Probably. They probably do.
Like, I guess because if you were a country performer, people wouldn't be coming up to you and saying, oh, I don't listen to...
Oh, yeah, right,
I don't listen to rap.
Yeah. Or if you're a country performer and someone was talking to you, they probably are there listening to your country. So to be there and be like, I don't listen to this.
I don't listen to country. Well, you listen to that country. That just happened right there.
Right. Why are you here? But I feel like, don't judge music. I think people judge music a lot, from this kind of idea of, oh, I don't listen to that. It's just like a judgmental thing. Just listen to it, and if you don't like it, you don't like it. But don't cut it out before you give it a try or before you understand it,
That's what I had done with a lot of genres. Like, I grew up in like a classic rock household, and I didn't even, it wasn't my favorite. To listen to classic rock, but because that was
that was your thing.
That was like the standard for what the good music is.
Right.
And like
Everything else to you is, no, that's not good.
or that's not supposed to be good because like I didn't even love it that much.
Yeah.
Which is why for a long time I wasn't even super into music just because I thought that this is what the good music is.
And everything else is rubbish.
Yeah. And everything else is rubbish. And because I'm not even into that good music, then why would I even bother with all the other stuff?
Yeah. Okay.
Which is a horrible way to sort of exist or subsist. So you talked earlier about your relationship or your love of working with words. Would you be able to talk a little bit about your history with like words?
Yeah, so my mom is shout out mom. My mom's a professor at UMass actually, and I learned from her.
What'd she teach?
Reading instruction and curriculum. So she pretty much teaches teachers. Before being a professor, she taught writing classes and literature classes. So I was taught that very early. And I used to read all the time, and I feel so bad that I don't read anymore. I walked in, I saw your collection of books, and I was like, oh my God, this is
see all
amazing.
the books, yeah.
Yeah.
I called out for the collection of books a lot.
Yeah, no, I love it. But so I've always been into words and just the power of words themselves. Actually, that's never changed. That's why I like music so much. It's more than the sound. It's what's being said.
So let me ask you this. What does music provide that poetry does not?
All sounds, I guess. And then I think you can get the same things out of both of them, but music definitely does provide for me as a more like upbeat, happy, enjoyment feeling. I feel like poetry is like really serious, and music can be very serious or the complete opposite,
I feel like in the past, like people like Seuss and Silverstein excluded, poetry has to be really on point for the reader's particular preference.
Okay, yeah.
To physicalize the emotion.
Yeah.
In the poetry.
Yeah.
Whereas I
feel what you're saying.
Like
completely.
Do you think that music is easier to feel in the body?
Yeah, I think so. And it's just because there's more than one sense going. So it's kind of easier to take in. You definitely have your sounds and then you have your words, sounds. But you're experiencing it in more than one way.
Yeah.
Where with poetry, it really is just like words. And then you have to make sense of those words, and sometimes it might not come out correctly to you, or the way the reader was trying to, or the writer was trying to put it out.
So for like a song, is it more likely for a song to mean the same thing for a group of people than for a poem to mean the same thing for a group of people?
Yes, I think so. I definitely think so. For one, even like a haiku can mean so many different things. So like if you pass it around, everyone will get something else from it.
Yeah.
But I feel like a song, it's not like interpretation, it's more telling you the story instead of being like, interpret this in your own way.
Yeah.
Like if you play a song at a party, it's a party song and everyone there is probably going to be jumping up and down to it the same exact way. But if you came in and you read a short poem, I feel like everyone would take away something different from it, So, to answer your question, yes, I do think so.
Okay. Do you think that there's a way to tell what would make a song a good song?
There's definitely like a formula for radio, but no, because that all depends per person. We definitely have what most people want to hear in the grand scheme of things. So if a song doesn't sound like that, most people are like, that's not good. But your favorite song could be a song that I despise and vice versa, You could hear a song and it wouldn't affect you at all. And I could hear it and it mean the world to me. So I don't think there's anyone can ever say like, oh, that's a good song or not. And definitely hear singing, you can be like, oh, that person's not a good singer. But as far as songs themselves go, yeah, there are bad songs, but there's no real like formula for a good song and a bad song. It's all how you interpret it.
Then what would you say is the formula for radio?
Radio is simple, catchy, something that you don't have to think about, That's, for example, like even rap, how we were talking about the different genres of rap. There's like radio rap and then there's underground rap. So a lot of people will put up stuff on Facebook, for example, and be like, oh, this rapper should be, I can't believe this rapper will never make it. And that's because that intelligent rapper that you put up that you're amazed by is too intelligent for the average listener, for the guy sitting in their car in traffic. They don't want to be, told the encyclopedia, or they just want to hear something simple that they can repeat. If you're out at a party or at a club and you're drinking, you don't want a song that has way too many words in it and you have to try to memorize. You want something you can sing along easily with your friends. One or two words that you can yell out and,
a straightforward song that by the end of the song you can sing along with it if you've never heard it before.
Exactly. Amen. So that is like the radio formula, the difference between like radio to me and other music. It's dumbed down. It's not stupid. It's just dumbed down.
Okay. Do you think that things like radio DJs will be like, I like this album, but I'm not allowed to play this song from it. So hopefully I'll play this song to get people interested in the other ones on the album.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they've had to do that every once in a while. I know record labels do that all the time, though. It's like, oh, I like the album, but we need a single. Actually, J. Cole went through that a lot.
In all of my learning in general, one of the scariest industries I've ever learned more about is the music industry. From things like sketchiness behind like contract deals and like labels abusing their artists as if the labels didn't depend on their artists.
Right. It's a money industry, and whenever money's involved in anything, greed comes out or whatever.
They talk about all the time how like now streaming is sort of hemorrhaging the money that comes into like the music industry. One, it's not great because it doesn't always support the artists. But it definitely doesn't support the labels when you have all these artists who can just directly upload their music to the internet now, and they can be their own managers and their own publicists.
It's definitely changed the music industry. Even just websites like SoundCloud or, even YouTube on its own has definitely changed the music industry so much to where people don't even need record labels now anymore. There's always been indie musicians, but that's more prevalent now because it's easier to get your music out now. You don't have to go to somebody to do that for you.
It's the best time to produce things yourself.
Amen.
Because the common person has more resources available to them than ever before.
Amen. Yeah. And that's so crazy to think of. My parents grew up in Africa, so the way they were brought up is a lot different than I was brought up. They were raised in Africa about 50 years ago. It's a different time and place. But even then, 10 years ago here, like we have people now getting famous off Instagram. 10 years ago, your parents would have never imagined that. You would have never imagined that. Instagram, YouTube, and it's every day it's more and more.
What is music? What does it provide for you and for everybody?
Music is magic. I think I said that earlier, and I just believe that so much. It really is this amazing thing that we were given that really is, it's so beautiful. Music is literally, I don't know, dude. I get flustered thinking about like even just that answer because it means so much to me. My life would have been so different without music. Probably not as happy without music. I can't go a day without listening.
Thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me, though. For real.
At this point, if you would like to plug something like your SoundCloud.
SoundCloud.com/solo artistic.
Thank you. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you very much, Pound.
I think music can almost be anything, really, because it's like a set of notes, but everyone speaks in kind of notes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, everyone has sort of like a lilt or a melody that they sort of speak with.
Yeah. So really anything could be like qualified as music.
Would you tell me a little bit about yourself?
My name is Anneliese.
And you love music.
I do.
I know this because we have been friends for some time. What sort of music do you listen to?
I listen to all kinds of music. It really depends on the mood I'm in. But I refuse to listen to country and metal. So everything besides that is fair game.
Okay, good. So instead of asking you questions about everything, I'm going to ask you questions about country and metal.
Oh, shoot. Okay.
Okay. As you know, I don't dislike things anymore.
Yeah.
But I will say that country is still not my preference of music. I often refer to my favorite country song as to be the one that we woke up to in that car that one time.
That's great.
And I'd sing it, but I don't want to. So what is it about, we'll start with country.
That I don't like?
Yeah. What do you not prefer?
Do I not prefer? I think it's too formulaic. You know what I mean? I think, it's so standard that everybody describes country being about, like a truck, you throw in a beer and the farmer's daughter.
There's a
and
girl,
that's
there's
it.
a pair of jeans.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like predictable almost.
Have you listened to the Bo Burnham song?
Which one?
It's called Pandering, I think.
No, I haven't.
You should check it out.
Okay.
It's him using the country song formula to write a country song.
That's so interesting.
And the song's called Pandering.
Interesting.
And what about metal?
I'm just not like a fan of screaming type of things. Like I like my ears to be comforted, not like deaf.
Have you personally ever screamed in your life?
I have.
Outside of like a fabricated situation, so not in film or on stage.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Is it a frequent occurrence?
No, I think it's really rare actually.
Yeah, no, I knew. I was setting that one up. Okay, what's your relationship to music?
Honestly, I think my music in general just gives me kind of a purpose to live. Like, I think besides pain, I think music is the one thing I'm susceptible to feel that, like, brings out the most feeling in me.
So you feel music and pain?
I know it sounds weird, but, like...
But you can pretty much boil down to those two things. Like, these are the two things that make me feel.
Yeah, I mean...
Is it physical pain?
It can be physical pain because I think, like, whenever I get hurt by someone, like, you know, when you find out something you don't want to know and you have, like, that punch in the stomach kind of feel it, like, kind of takes your breath away.
Yeah.
I feel that with music. Like, it's a physical thing when I hear something.
It like transcribes itself into the physical world.
Yeah, and it's so weird.
Like,
there's no other form of life or anything in life that actually makes me feel that way. So.
I know there are moments listening to music for me where it hits that point of the song and you're like, hell yeah.
Yeah,
And
it's crazy to me.
I was going through the playlist that you made for me a couple weeks ago, and my favorite song on it was what's it even called? Bruises?
Louis Capaldi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When just the way he sings water in
Isn't
that
it
song just breaks me down.
You know what? I actually saw him live, and I didn't know that it was him. And then I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is so beautiful."
My sister and I had that moment watching the Super Bowl halftime show
Oh.
when Justin Timberlake was singing "Sunshine in My Pocket," and both of us were like, "I didn't know that was Justin Timberlake."
Are you serious?
Yeah,
That's so interesting.
At the same time, I don't say that my family is one that's very involved with Justin Timberlake's career.
Yeah, same.
Okay, so where do you personally feel music? Like in your body?
My stomach.
Your stomach?
My stomach.
Why do you think it resonates in your stomach?
I don't know. I feel like, I don't know, it's kind of a hit in the gut type of thing. Like, I feel like that's where I feel most things. I think it resonates there.
So I feel it in my chest.
Interesting.
Yeah. I think once we had a conversation about across the board, it was pretty clear that you listen to sadder music and I listen to happier music.
Yeah.
And I walked away thinking to it, it's all like, oh, she listens to sad music to give her something to overcome, and he listens to happy music to give him something to aspire to.
I remember this.
Do you remember this conversation?
I remember this conversation.
And I figured, like, one of the major differences in my relationship to music has been, like, it's given me, like, happy music gives me a reason to sort of jump around and be sillier, and sadder music tends to bring me down in a way. Like, instead of, like, what would you say happy music offers versus sad music?
I think sad music makes me feel upset and makes me feel like, I know it sounds bad, but worthless. And I think I get my motivation from feeling kind of like I need to prove myself. I need to get stuff done. I need to be better. So, like, if I make myself feel like I'm not good enough through music, it makes me motivated to do better. But, like, more recently, I've been listening to happier music, and it just makes me feel like I'm already come a long way, and I can do, like, more.
So, like, you're riding the high of the happy music.
Yeah.
Rather than being all like, I don't have a right to this happy music.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's a right. That's interesting. Yeah.
So, do you perform?
I do.
How often?
Not that much anymore.
Not that much. Would you want to perform more regularly?
I wish I could, yeah.
What sort of sound do you go for?
In my performance?
Yeah, in your performance.
I think it's really whatever I want to put out there, like whatever I feel like is new enough, and sometimes it's just things I want to try that I hear, and it's just like, oh, I think I could try that, and it would be cool. Like, I think the one that you went to, I think I was more prone to singing sadder songs at that one, and I'm more prone to sing sad songs anyway, because I feel like I'm able to express them better than happy songs.
If you were to perform tonight, what do you think your set would look like?
Probably most of the ones that you heard. Billie Eilish, she does a lot of sad songs that I think are so beautifully written that I would do. And then I think there are songs that I have that's no one heard before that I would do, and they're sad too, because I usually only write sad songs.
Yeah. Have you ever heard, there's a song called Aaron, J.D. Eicher or J.D. Eichner, and there's this lyric in the song that goes, I don't write sad songs, they just seem to find me.
Oh, that's cool.
I feel like it's more likely that sadness, especially in music, will present itself to a musician rather than happiness, because I feel like there are less so songs about happiness, or a lot of happy songs are sort of steeped in, like, rooted in sadness, so like recovery songs, growth songs, or like this is where I was, this is where I am now, rather than just coming out of the gates being like, this is a blast.
Right.
So is that something that you'd be able to relate with?
I think so. I think music helps me cope with a lot of things. I think it's the most vulnerable form of art that I'm used to, because it's like, you know, acting, you play a character, but like music, I'm so scared to put out there because it's actually what I go through and it's actually who I am and what I think and stuff. And so a lot of the times I don't put anything out there because I'm like, everyone will think my feelings are invalid.
Why do you think they'll think that your feelings are invalid?
I don't know.
Through your music.
Through my music, because it's just like, I tend to express what makes me sad more than what makes me happy. And like, you know, Taylor Swift writes about like the same thing. That's why she has such a bad rap. But like, they could say the same thing about me. Like, wow, she's been writing about this one subject for so long. But it's like, it's hurt me for so long.
You're like getting to the root of it.
Yeah.
So sort of music presents itself as like a restorative sort of process for you.
Yeah, it's honestly how I think I get through so many things, is that I just need to write about it and put a melody to it, and I think I feel a lot better.
What do you think music provides for the average like listener?
I think it's a safe place, and I think it provides kind of a friend in a way I think music is very relatable, and it's nice to know that people are going through the same thing. And I think that artists who tend to write profound lyrics, like there are so many artists that I think are so great at expressing through lyrics what they feel. And it's so nice when someone actually puts down how you feel in a better way that you can. And you're like, wow, this lyric is beautiful. Like, I should have written that.
That's how I feel.
Yeah.
They get it.
Yeah,
It's like, I'm not alone.
Yeah, it's so cool when someone is able to just, like, put into words how you feel. They don't even know you.
Are you familiar with the saying, all X music sounds the same, all Y music sounds the same?
No.
Have you ever been in a conversation with someone and they don't like this type of music because they think that all the songs sound the same?
I have been, and I think I used to be one of those people.
With what kind of music?
I think, like, alternative music. I used to think that. But I think it's different now, because I think music also provides a timeline of your life. So if you're listening to alternative at this point and you're going through this thing, and then you're listening to alternative now, but you're going through a different thing, I think it sounds completely different. Because you're different people when you're listening to it.
Yeah.
So I don't agree with that phrase.
Why do you think people could think that way?
I think maybe they're just going off the sound of it rather than just the experience of it. I think music is an experience. It's a sound too, but I think more than anything, it's an experience you have.
Experience is a great way to put it.
Yeah.
I once saw this explanation that art was how to decorate space, but music was how to decorate time.
I agree with that. I totally agree with that.
Which I thought it was like an interesting way to put it, right?
That is.
Because you can't hold music. You can hold the things and the people who can make music.
Yeah.
But music itself is like this. It's this intangible thing.
Right.
So what does music provide overall? You talked a little bit about what it provides. Like, it provides a history. It sort of provides like a community, because you're able to, as you say, like someone else can go through the same thing and word it sort of better than you are or can. What do you think music provides?
If I had to revisit the question, I think music provides more of an understanding of self. I think I've discovered a lot of who I am through the music that I've been listening to, and like the things that I relate to and the things I write about. And I think it's just a good way to explore kind of what's going on inside yourself. So I think it's a good tool to understand who you are and why things affect you the way things affect you.
I love it being an experience.
Yeah, I think it is.
Because, like, what else could it be?
If you, like, listen to a song and, like, it brings you back to a time or it makes you feel a certain way, like, you just think of the emotion and the people in it. And
Yeah.
memories, like you said, memories are intangible.
Yeah, I can't listen to Soul Sister anymore.
Yeah.
I told you about this, right?
Yeah, you did.
Because it brings me back to my freshman year of high school when I had this big crush on this girl.
Yeah.
And not because I associated that song with her, but because I really liked her the time that they were playing Soul Sister nonstop on the radio.
You know what's crazy? I actually had that experience where I couldn't listen to a band for a long time because it reminded me of, like, my ex I was, like, totally in love with. But, like, today I started listening to him again, and I felt completely different because it was, like, it wasn't the same songs. It was a new album. But, like, it's crazy. It's crazy, I think.
What makes a song a good song?
Ooh, that's really hard. I don't know, because I don't think that you can kind of boil it down to whether it's good or bad. Because if it doesn't make me feel a certain way, I can't be like, oh, that's a bad song. Because to someone else, it might be the greatest thing in the world. Like,
That's a very mature perspective.
yeah, and I can't do that anymore because I don't know. What makes a good song to me is what it triggers for me and what it makes me feel like. That's a great song. If it gives me, like, the physical punch that I was talking to you about, that's
If it doesn't make it to your stomach.
yeah, if it doesn't, like, that's too bad for that song, but, like, if it does, I'm probably gonna, like, have some emotional reaction to it, which will make it, like, fantastic. And I will listen to it over and over and over again until I figure out, like, what exactly it is, what sound it is, or, like, what note it is that makes it so profound to me.
Unraveling the coil
Yeah.
of this song and seeing what it is, not period, but what it is to you.
There have been times I've been driving in the car for an hour and I've listened to the same song for an hour.
I did that. I would have a soundtrack and I would listen to the soundtrack for, like, months at a time.
Oh, really? That's really cool.
I did that probably for the first 2.5 years. No, first 2 years of college.
Oh, that's
I
cool.
would do that, yeah. And then we did a show, and then halfway through that show, I started listening to podcasts in the car.
Oh, that's really cool.
How do people find different music?
I think it's just being open to, like, letting people show you new music. Because I think we're so stuck on what we usually listen to. Like, if I get in the car, like, I want to listen to what I want to listen to. But if you let someone just, like, show you whatever they want, you're just, like, opened up to so many things.
Yeah.
And I think it's important, like, at least maybe twice a week, I just, like, play music randomly. And I don't know what
That's
it is.
a good way to do it.
Yeah.
There was a long time for me where the only time I would see new music is when someone would show me their new music.
Yeah.
Like this is what I've been listening to, or I think you'll like this.
I know it sounds weird, but I think it's kind of like a collaborative effort, you know, when people collaborate through writing. I think you need to collaborate through showing music. Does that make sense?
No, it makes total sense. Because also, if we take a look at composition, you compose.
Yeah.
Do you compose often?
Yeah.
How often do you say?
I would say maybe like 4 to 5 times a week.
A week. Oh, okay. Yeah. So, like, I would say that's average for writing.
Yeah.
And that's actually, it's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that something like writing music, maybe less so than performing in a band, but writing music is still, like, a very collaborative effort, because if you compose a piece and it has drums, piano, bass, guitar, you can compose that on your own, but you can't play that live on your own unless you come with the other parts recorded.
Yeah, it's so true. I also think it's the same with, like, writing music. Like, I never learned the importance of listening to others. Okay,
so would you talk a little bit about your background with music, background with voice, background with getting into doing music?
Yeah, I think it all started when, this is how I learned I wanted to be an actor too. It was actor, like, musician type thing. When I saw Grease. I know that sounds weird, but, like, I was, like, so enthralled with them.
You're not super into
I'm not into
musicals,
but I loved the music and I loved the acting separately. So I started taking piano lessons maybe when I was 5, and then I quit. And then once I quit, I started practicing more than when I actually took the lessons. And then I started taking lessons again in 9th grade, I think. And so, like, overall, I've been playing piano for at least 15 years. And I've been playing drums for like maybe started taking lessons in ninth grade. Guitar, I took them for like a year. Bass guitar, I figured out a little on my own. And then music theory, I've taken maybe over a year and a half of. So like I kind of know what I'm doing in a sense. Voice, I've never really taken lessons. I had to when I was at a conservatory, but like never really focused on it. Though I love to sing. I love to sing. Yeah. And maybe, I don't know, when I start writing, it'll be like at night. I'll start maybe at 10 p.m. at night, and there have been days where I go till like 4 in the morning, and I can't stop.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's just like so many things start coming to me, and I feel like I do better when no one else is awake and I can have just my mind and the space to myself.
That sounds like a very intimate and liberating experience.
It is. It's so great.
Like, I'm just by myself, together.
Yeah, and you don't get distracted because who is up at like 3 in the morning on like a Tuesday?
Yeah. And probably people trying to tell other people who are making music to quiet down.
True.
Circle back. To you, how would you define music?
Gosh. Yeah, my answer has totally changed. I think music to me is a way for me to find ways to heal.
What sort of things are you healing from? In general, not like tell me
Not
about your trauma.
I think I write about one subject usually, and it's usually about being hurt by people that I think I invested so much time in. And I think I'm healing from allowing myself to feel as worthless as I did at one point. Because I don't anymore, and it's great. It's such a good feeling.
Do you have music that sort of brings you back to feeling like
Worthless?
well, worthless, constrained?
Yeah, I think so.
That you've written.
Yeah, I've written.
You've written. When you listen to music that you've written as a way to sort of work through these negatives that you're healing from, as you say that's what music provides for you, does it bring you back to feeling the way you did when you first wrote the music?
Yeah, I mean, in a way it does, but like listening to that music always makes you kind of, I don't want to say happy in a way, it makes me sad that I ever felt that way, but it makes me happy that I just like, I don't care about the subject matter as much anymore.
Well, so that was the fault of my original wording, because like, why would you write music that made you feel worthless?
Yeah.
It was music to help you overcome feeling worthless. So if you went back and listened to it, I guess the question is, do you feel yourself overcoming that place that you were in, not feeling the worthless emotions that made you want to create the music?
I think so, but like I think a part of me is still upset that, I know it sounds really selfish in a way, but sometimes I write things to like, because that's how I express how I feel to others. And like, if the people that ever made me feel like that listen to the music, which I don't think they do, like if they did, I think they'd understand why I reacted the way I reacted sometimes, is because I just had this whole thought process that was completely different from theirs. So like, listening to it makes me sad that I will always be on a different page than someone else who made me feel that way, but like listening to it makes me happy that I've gotten through so much.
Music provides for you a way to heal. Is that what music provides for everyone?
I don't think so. I think for me, it's healing because I tend to listen to sad songs, and sad songs makes me reflect on how I feel. Whereas I think music for other people provides like an escape to like some place that's happier. And I think it's like, I don't want to say like it's a healing thing, but like maybe a synonym for healing that's a better connotation. You know what I mean?
So it's not healing, but in your words, it's a better word for that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, sure.
Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Do you have a SoundCloud or something that you would like to plug?
I do. Anneliese Rydell.
At SoundCloud?
Yeah.
All right. And I'll have that information available on the episode.
Oh, that's awesome.
As well.
Thanks.
So in the description.
Cool.
Thank you for coming on.
Thank you, Jack. It's so fun.
So I'm Eric Anderson Jr. Okay, so, oh God, what do I do? Well, I guess that's the reason I'm here, is because I am a professional, quote unquote. I just did air quotes, and it's a podcast. Quote unquote musician. And like a lot of musicians right now, it's just a bunch of side hustles that you try to make add up at the end of the month. So primarily I'm a voice and piano teacher, but I also music direct, which of course is how we met because you were interning at Wesley Theater Project while I was MDing Chicago. I'm also a church organist, which is probably the most shocking thing. Teach privately. I also teach a little bit at Walnut Hill School for the Arts in Natick. So that's kind of the grab bag right now.
What's your music education background?
So there I will go back to the very beginning because it's kind of cute, not gonna lie. My grandmother was and is still, at her age, a piano teacher. And so my sisters and I had absolutely no choice. We all took piano lessons starting at age 5. I joke that I was just the only one crazy enough to decide to actually do it for a living. So I did the piano thing, got to middle school, did the orchestra thing. So in a previous life, I was also a violist, also did the chorus thing. So I was just like the music guy. So then naturally I went to music school. I attended the Indiana University School of Music. Now it is the Jacobs School of Music, hashtag philanthropy, but I really hate calling it that because I think it's gross. So the Indiana University School of Music, was a piano major, not successfully. Got seduced into theater world, so started accompanying and music directing and kind of finding my own path. That way, finally graduated in 07. Stayed in Bloomington for a while because then my husband was finishing school. So then I just kept working and trying to do as much as I could as an accompanist music director in Bloomington. And then when he finished his PhD, we moved out here.
So do you still work as a church organist weekly?
Yeah. So I'm currently at the First United Methodist Church in Stoughton.
You said you were seduced into the theater world.
Yeah.
All theater or musical theater?
Oh, specifically musical theater.
Specifically
Yeah,
musical
yeah.
theater. What was so enticing about musical theater?
This requires a bit of backstory too, and it all gets tied up together. I had really loved musicals as a kid. Shocker. From probably the moment that I saw Muppets Take Manhattan, which is a classic if you've not seen it. It was the first time I'd ever seen Liza Minnelli on screen, and I immediately knew that my life had changed, and I'm not even exaggerating, just to be dramatic and gay. So I just was fascinated by what that medium and the form was, and of course I wouldn't have used those terms at age 8, but in retrospect. So I always wanted to get involved with it somehow. The problem was I was terribly shy as a child and not really willing to get on stage outside of like church children's choir productions. So then got to high school and really in 10th grade wanted to audition for our school's production of Fame, but totally crapped out. Just couldn't do it because I knew it was going to be like dance heavy and I'm not a dancer. Could have been. And then my senior year, and this gets a little more complicated. So my senior year, I actually had tendonitis, so I had to take off a month or 2 from practicing, which was a nightmare because I was trying to actually like prepare for college auditions and couldn't. So I was like, well, fine, I have all this free time in the fall. I'll audition for the fall musical. And because our drama teacher was thinking of doing My Fair Lady, and I was like, oh my God, this is so awesome because I can be Henry Higgins, and this friend of mine would have been the most perfect Eliza Doolittle, and it was all just going to be glorious, and it would be my stage debut. And my mom said, no, you can't audition for the show. You can't take all that time to be in rehearsal because you need to be practicing. In spite of the fact that I had to take a whole month off from practicing, blah, blah, blah. So maybe I won't recommend that my mother listen to this episode because I'm totally throwing her under the bus. But the whole point was I couldn't take the time to be in a show because I needed to prepare to get into like this really good music school. I then got into a really good music school that I left so that I could do musical theater. But what happened specifically was that by the time I got to college, I knew I wanted to get involved in the theater right from the first moment as a freshman, and I promised myself I would audition for the first show that came along, and once again I crapped out. I was too scared of the idea of a dance call, so I did not go. But I did attend the show with a friend and loved what I saw on stage, but what really got my attention was watching the guy in the pit who was conducting. And I guess it had never occurred to me before that there was such a thing as, the music director who's leading the orchestra and the singers and everything like that. Having gone through the whole experiences where I was too scared to show up and audition because the whole acting, singing, dancing thing did, and to this day terrifies me. I literally had the thought of, oh my God, I could be that guy. How do I get to be that guy? And so that really directed my course the rest of my time that I was in school, because that's the reason I really heavily started getting into accompanying, particularly musical theater students, so that I could get to know the repertoire more, and tried to work my way into the student organizations that were putting on their shows, so I could kind of work my way up to that, so that by junior year I was assistant music directing a student production of Guys and Dolls, which was precious. And then later that year was asked by another student organization to music direct my first show, Rocky Horror. And so it's sort of like all those steps added up, and then I was that guy leading the pit band.
You set the goal for yourself, and then...
Yeah, and I kind of just found my way through, again, the accompanying voice students, absorbing everything I could about voice instruction, but also taking conducting classes and, attending shows, and essentially making my social circle the theater school and not the music school. Which made things difficult, from a piano major standpoint, but ultimately was just where I ended up. A large part of it, one of my struggles as a piano major was that I was expected to be alone for hours in a practice room to learn repertoire that frankly I had no interest in, or that I loved, but was not doing it for me in a way that I was willing to spend all those hours alone in a practice room. It's one of the reasons I loved accompanying, because you got to collaborate. And then once I was finally in a rehearsal setting, I had really found my home, because you're there making art around all these wonderful people. And so then I was willing to spend time in a practice room to prepare music for that.
Yeah.
Because I knew ultimately I would be in a rehearsal space with tons of other people all working together, and that was so much more appealing to me than simply laboring away for my own rep that was expected, of the successful piano major.
Do you think there's something about the community of it, working with a group of people to create this musical piece?
Yeah.
Do you think that has a different amount of fulfillment or satisfaction than laboring for hours on this one piece in a room alone?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I really believe what I'm about to say, but I'm going to throw it out there and then we'll figure out if I actually do. But I feel like, there's probably a greater satisfaction when something successful is the result of a shared effort rather than I alone did this. I don't know if I'm prepared to get into why.
Well, so that's...
But I do have a gut feeling that's what does it for me.
What would you say doing music as part of a community provides versus doing music as an individual provides?
That's an excellent question. Well done.
Wow.
I mean, it's obviously going to be different for every person, but perhaps, and again, I'm going to throw this out here and we'll just sort of develop it as we go. I suspect a lot of it has to do with the fact that, at least for me, and the amount of insecurity that I constantly carry with me about the work I'm doing and whether it's effective or, quote, good, or doing it the right way. When you're alone in a music practice room for hours on your own, it's only you. You might have remembrances of what your professor said in the studio and what you've heard other performers do and that sort of thing, but really it's just you, and you've got to have a huge amount of faith that you're going down the right path, that you're approaching a passage the right way, that your interpretation is justifiable.
Yeah.
And you got to trust yourself for that, and I don't think I ever had the strength for it. Whereas, you're in a rehearsal room, you're telling an actor something, or you're trying something out yourself. You're aware pretty quickly of whether or not it works. The feedback's immediate, and it's constant. And again, because of just, I guess, my own insecurity, I take a lot of comfort in that, because there's no guessing as to whether or not what just came out of my mouth made any sense, because I'm getting a room of blank stares. So I try again, and I immediately take another tactic, whereas I could work for hours on a piece, take it into an audience, have totally wrecked it, and all those hours would have been for nothing. And at least that's how I feel. I certainly wouldn't argue that that's the case for anybody else.
But I guess, one of the big differences with what your argument here is, you don't have to wait till the stage to glean your feedback.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So they say, with stand-up comedy, when you go up and you perform and you see what works and what doesn't, you sort of eliminate more of that process, where if you're in a group, if you're music directing, you're a group and you're there's this agreement and this sort of quasi-collaboration that's going on, to the point where you're not 100% blind about what's gonna land or what you perceive is gonna land when you do get to the proscenium.
Right. Yeah. Just the entire process is collaborative, and I'm just simply drawn to that for whatever reason.
Do you perform on your own?
Very little.
How much is very little?
Very, very little. I've tried to do it more because I do think it's valuable. If I'm going to teach other people how to do it, I should probably have an idea of what it's like. I'm not going to go out for a show because, again, it's not a medium that I'm comfortable in. I'm the kind of guy who loves the cabaret setting. Put me in front of a mic to do a set of songs for an evening and I'm so at home. That's the medium I really love. So for instance, I got a gig just doing a couple nights at a place in Provincetown last summer and sang a 3-hour gig at a piano bar and drove right back. So I did that. I'm trying to do more things like that because that's a setting where I am comfortable and I would like to be doing it more. But at the same time, I'm not so driven to do it that I'm like sacrificing other aspects of my work to make it happen. I'm like, so my own performing is outside of the, music directing is minimal.
Outside of musical theater, do you have preferred genres of music you like to listen to?
Yes, I'm kind of a lazy listener these days. I rely a lot on what Spotify just throws at me.
Spotify's pretty good for that.
I feel like it, but I do feel like it's making me intellectually lazy because I'm just like, radio. To the listeners, I did a little button pushing motion that was part of the delivery. But I find myself actually drawn to a lot of roots and bluegrass and just a lot of that sort of acoustic kind of stuff. I don't know why, because any other aspect of my Southern identity, I've basically shed the music I like.
What do you think, like bluegrass, what do you think the genres that you've listed sort of provide for you as a listener that other genres sort of don't?
Probably because I know nothing about it. I if I'm listening to a musical theater cast album, I'm usually singing along or making judgments about decisions that the singers and conductor made. If I'm listening to classical music, I'm usually listening very closely and analytically and thinking, is this something I could play? Or, God, I wish I could conduct this. Or, I should have kept playing the viola.
What does music provide for you when you listen to it?
It depends on what I'm doing and like what I've put on and why. I mean, most of the time I need to have music going on because if it's not in the world, it's going to be in my head. And if it's in my head, it usually means I'm looping the same 2 or 3, not even whole songs, but 2 or 3 lines from songs.
I'll get as far as 3 measures before it starts looping back.
Yeah. And I mean, that'll drive a person insane, truly. And I can't have that. I don't think. I'm not interested in that experience. I need to have music in the world. So I'm always putting something on, whether I'm like doing the dishes or like just sitting and answering emails and figuring out our budget for the month. In those instances, it's just like when I do the dishes, I actually like to have something to sing along to. So, I want something that I know. When I'm working on like paperwork and emails, I need to be focused on the work, so I put on stuff that's usually instrumental, so it's very atmospheric and backgroundy and nothing that I'm familiar with at all. Usually the kind of stuff that I would judge other people for listening to. There I said it. And then it's kind of weird. It depends. I change it based on the space. When I'm at my church and I'm going through music and planning service music and things like that, I'll definitely put on like sacred music to kind of get me like focused. Yeah. And when I'm in my teaching studio, I'll generally put on, Beethoven or Handel or Haydn. Again, just to get me focused on that kind of work. And so far it's been effective, and so that's what I do. My favorite used to be just putting on Legally Blonde and skrelting all the way through it until all the chores were done.
So what do you think makes a song good or bad?
Any song, a musical theater song, a pop song.
Okay, let's start with...
Sorry, I threw it back at you.
No, I know, and I'm just going to say any song and throw it back at you.
Oh, man. So let's start with pop songs, because I think those are easier. Although I guess that's probably debatable, but maybe not. I'm very secure in my own opinions. I'm not equivocal at all. So, I mean, you take something like a pop or rock song, and you hope to God it uses more than your standard 4 chords. That throws in some interesting harmonies, that maybe it doesn't fall into just the same old groove every single time. Or if it does use just the same old 4 chords and the same old groove, that hopefully, lyrically, it has something worth saying anyway. Which is tough because so much lyric material gets written because the commercial recording industry is massive and constantly churning out content, and most of it's garbage because they're not trying to write good songs. They're trying to maybe find a rhyme to put over a beat, usually all about love, falling into it, and the lack of.
Yeah, how many times can I rhyme wife with life?
Yeah. For me, a good pop song is less about the musical content than lyrical. Because I'm more concerned with what's actually being said. And then ideally the musical setting contributes to that, doesn't overwhelm it, supports it in the right way, and hopefully shows some imagination as well.
Are you familiar with the phrase, like when someone is talking about their preferences and as a result they're putting down like another genre of music? We'll say they don't like that music because they think all the songs sound the same. Are you familiar with this critique?
Yeah.
So why do you think people will say, oh, I don't like that music because it all sounds the same?
Because sometimes it all sounds the same. But
I was gonna say, so do you support that opinion?
But at the same time, I don't think that's a reason to call it bad music, though. I would parallel that with the thing that I most hear, or certainly heard growing up and sometimes still do. I like everything but country.
Yeah.
And that's always the one that gets singled out. And it's funny because I think of all the genres, that's the one that's most likely to sound the same. And in fact, many people have gone into depth as to why that's the case. The chord progressions that are used, the song structures that are used, and the sort of repetition of subject matter, and the commonality of certain harmonic progressions, can also be found absolutely in pop and rock music. So it's like sometimes I feel that sort of dismissal of country music is mostly classist. That sort of repetition and banality, to use a little more academic of a word, is found in any kind of commercial music because it's commercial.
Yeah.
You need something that's easily consumable so it can sell
Yeah.
a lot of copies, or these days streaming listens. And theoretically, totally going in a different direction, obviously that's what distinguishes it from, to use a debatable term, art music. The popular versus the artistic. There's something that's just very easily digestible, and you get everything you need out of it the very first time, as opposed to something that requires, or hopefully invites, multiple listens and a lot of processing. And a lot of people who exist in the pop world are capable of that, which is, and I'm drawn to a lot of those, like Ani DeFranco, she would not call herself pop, sorry, or Rufus Wainwright and Tori Amos, although my husband's more the Tori Amos listener than I am. But they exist within that sound world and those forms, but are able to construct more out of it.
Let's take a step back. And in a more global sense, why do you think we listen to music?
So you're getting into real fundamentals now.
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm probably better why we make it, but why do we listen to it? Because other people make it.
Well, okay. Well, start with why do we make it?
I mean, music itself is, it's an elevated form of storytelling, and human beings are nothing if not a storytelling species. And at some point, and this is what musical theater is all about, right? At some point, our forebearers discovered that the intention behind the story they were telling required more than speech. Mm-hmm. So they had to discover another level of communication that elevated what they were trying to say and also sort of prompted an even deeper response from the audience. Kant goes a lot more into that, and he's pretty impenetrable, so I'm not going to claim to be an expert, but I tried once.
Yeah.
But he was much better at it in terms of understanding it.
Oh yeah, we don't have to unpack Kant.
No, we won't. I'm not even going to try. But that's the idea. You go there because you need to, in terms of what you're trying to express, and also because you want to get that deeper response out of an audience. Mm-hmm. And that would suggest then that as an audience, we seek out music because we want something to spur that response in us. We can go hear somebody talk about falling in love, or we can go to an Adele concert. Because what are all her songs?
That's our measure.
That's all 3 friggin' albums.
You could go to a TED Talk, or...
But seriously, there's something... If I were into the psychology of music and in even the physiology of how we respond to it, which I'm not, I'm sure there are things we could talk about in terms of just how the human body perceives sound. And not just all sound, but specifically the organization of sound that we call music. And we certainly seem primed to receive it at a very, for lack of a better word, primitive level. Mm-hmm. It really touches something fundamental and primal that nothing else does. And when it accomplishes that, it's I find it a little bit addictive. It's a great hit, and I think that's why we seek it out, because we know that it's going to touch us in that way, and nothing else does. It's a truly unique experience.
Do you think it's possible for 2 people to ever feel the same thing from one song?
Doubtful. Specifically, no. I mean, we all get the same, I'm sure tons of people get the same general feeling. The specifics of that feeling are obviously going to be unique to every person. So I just started reading a book that I've had on the shelf for years, which is most of my books that have been on the shelf for years. But I finally picked up Proust and the Squid, which came out in 2007.
Oh, that sounds fun.
It is. It's about the development of the reading brain, and she quotes a passage by Proust and then goes back and kind of breaks down the mental processes that you would have gone through while reading that. And that not only are you taking in the symbols and then synthesizing those symbols into a narrative, but also trying to keep an overarching structure so you don't lose track of what he's talking about because of his complex sentence structure, all the semicolons and whatnots. But then there's the next step, and this is what makes reading so exciting, that there's the next step of you going beyond what the text offers, because then you're imbuing it with your own experience that gives you the connection to the truth of what's being said. And we obviously, I'm taking for granted that we do the same thing with music, or at least with songs with lyric,
Yeah.
That's talking about a particular kind of experience. And if we've had a similar enough experience that it resonates with us, we may have we could all say in an audience that it made us feel nostalgic, in the very vague sense, but the specifics of that, of course, are going to be unique to every single person based on what memory we're recalling.
Yeah, especially with nostalgia.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
No one in a theater can be taken back to the same exact memory.
Right. Because we don't have them.
Yeah.
The one difference, so like specifically the show Assassins, which is one of my favorites, there's the song Something Just Broke, which is all about, the ensemble gets a number out of themselves, whereas ordinary Americans, they're talking about where they were and what they were doing the moment they hear that the president has been killed. And in, obviously the 21st century, as an American audience, we obviously are going to relate that then to the attacks of September 11th. So there's that common moment that we're all pinning that feeling to. But again, our specific moment is going to be different.
Right.
So we share what's common, but it's made up of all of these different experiences.
Okay. What is music?
You jerk. I mean, obviously I should have seen that coming, but oh Lord. Well, it's rhythm.
Rhythm?
Yeah. I worked with a voice professor closely at IU, who could be cantankerous about a lot of things, and he would be on doctoral panels, for oral exams, and he made a big thing about always asking the doctoral candidates, what is the one required element for music? And he would just get a thrill out of seeing the lengths to which they would go to describe it. And it's like, it's rhythm. All it takes is rhythm. None of that other stuff matters. Like, it's just that, you hear a drum beat and you respond to the rhythm. Because that is a musical element. And without that, nothing else matters. It's simply the fact that we're attaching a rhythm to something that makes it musical. And then everything else is simply layers on top of that.
So for what rhythm provides to us, do you think it's as simple? Do you think it's as straightforward as for individual experiences? Do you think everything can be boiled down to my experience of listening to music is the rhythm?
No, I wouldn't say that, because we all respond to rhythm. That's something that's very deeply ingrained in us. I'm just trying to pick something of a universal example. My experience of the final movement of Beethoven's Ninth Symphony has very little to do with its rhythmic elements. There it's like the play of the vocal forces combined with the poetry and the really strange harmonic directions that he takes it. Again, I'm not responding necessarily to the rhythm in that. It is the other musical elements. So I'm not suggesting that when we respond to music, it's based on the rhythm. I'm just saying that is the fundamental element without which music doesn't exist.
Yes, it makes sense.
Okay.
I could see it in your eyes.
Yeah.
So just thank you for coming on. Would you do it again?
What?
Would you do it again? Would you come back?
Always.
Okay.
Especially for you, Jack.
Oh, shucks. I leave you with the same base question I asked our guests. What is music? Is it magic? Is it healing? Is it rhythm? That's it for today's Station J. My thanks to Curtis, Anneliese, and Eric for joining today's episode. You can find Curtis on SoundCloud under the handle Solo Artist, and you can find Anneliese at Anneliese Rydell. More information about those in the description. I'm ending on a move from the Invisibilia playbook. A moment of nonsense. Goodbye. You ran the gambit.
Yeah, gamut.
No, you didn't know if it was gonna succeed.
Well done, sir.
Yeah. Don't sass me when I'm home.